Greetings of the day to all my dear students. This is Shreya Jadhav welcoming you all to Shreya's Arts Academy. This YouTube channel may help you out with your arts stream subjects like history, psychology, and political science videos. So, in today's video lecture, we shall study about history as a subject. But before starting with the explanation of the chapter and subject, it is always good to start our day with positive thought. So, the thought for the day is your life has purpose. Your story is important. Your dreams count. Your voice matters. You were born to make an impact. So, let us move ahead, and in today's video lecture, we shall learn about history, grade 11, chapter 1, sources of studying the history of ancient India. So, let us go through what we will be learning in today's chapter. Introduction to history, the tradition of writing Indian history, the content of Indian history, descriptions of foreign travelers. So these are the four main topics which we will be covering in this video lecture. So without wasting much time, let us move ahead with the reading and explanation of the chapter. So we shall start with chapter 1, sources of studying the history of ancient India. India is a subcontinent and it has its own unique and vast history. The geographical location of India has played an important role in forming her own history. The nation has a specific geographical situation because of the ranges of Himalayas in the north, the Arabian Sea in the west, the Indian Ocean in the south, and by the Bay of Bengal in the east. The ocean and the ranges of mountains have protected India. However, India has not remained aloof from the world history since ancient times. Many foreign people landed in India, crossing the inaccessible boundaries, and likewise the Indians went abroad. So, over here, India is a subcontinent which has its own unique history. We have a very important geographical location because we have Himalayas in the north, we have the Arabian Sea in the west, we have the Indian Ocean in the south, and we have the Bay of Bengal in the east. All the mountains and ocean have always protected India, and our history is not aloof from the world. The north-south length of India is 9214 kilometers and the east-west width is 2933 kilometers. The land boundary is approximately 9600 kilometers and the sea boundary is nearly 8000 kilometers. The area of India is about 32.8 lakh square meters from the point of view of rains, climate, and culture. There is such a variety in different provinces that India is not only a huge country but a subcontinent made up of many countries. Such regional diversities has become variegated from the point of view of culture. The great Indian culture is the result of the synthesis of many races and culture. So, dear students, for your MCQ purpose, you are supposed to remember what is the length of India, the width of India, the land boundary, the sea boundary, and the area of India. All these are very important for your one liners as well as for the MCQs. Most of the people till now believed that history is nothing but descriptions of dynasties, battles, the kings, emperors, but in fact, it is not so. History evaluates the political, economic, and social situations with the help of the material available in the scientific method. Not only that, but it raises the question as to how such an event takes place and clarifies its impact on the society. Sometimes, on getting new artifacts, newer definitions are made. It also distinguishes facts from fiction. On the basis of historical evidences, historians describe the truthfulness of the fact. So, in the olden times, it was believed that history was nothing but it was a description of what happened in past. Moreover to that, it talks about the dynasties and battles, kings and emperors. But history also evaluates not only about the royal dynasty, but it also evaluates about the political, economical and the social situations which helped us to become what we are today with the help of the scientific method. The next topic is the tradition of writing Indian history. In the West, the historical events have been better organized chronologically than in India. It does not imply that Indians were not interested in history. In fact, the method of writing history among the Indians was different from the West. The Western history is found in India in the Purans of Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug. From it, the list of the rulers and the dynasties are found. It also contains the achievements and the events that happened. In the 12th century AD, Kalhana wrote Rajtirangini, History of Kashmir. It is a proof that Indians were not ignorant of history. But it is also a fact that no other such books was found in India. So over here, it has always been said that Western culture or people have a better organized way of writing their history. But that doesn't mean that the Indians were not interested. We had our own different method of writing history. Our Indian history was written down in a format of Puranas, which was in Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug. It has been divided into 4 different sectors, and we can get the list of the rulers and dynasties which were found. So it has been also said that in the 12th century AD, Kalhana wrote Rajtirangini, and that book gives description of the history of Kashmir. Now, dear students, you will be a bit complex because you have read this in your 10th standard history also. The English started establishing their rule over India in 18th century. They got the ancient Indian books translated in India to know the ancient Indian history and the society. Moreover, in order to know the history and the culture of ancient India, the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal was established in the year 1827 AD. This is very important for MCQ purpose. They translated Manusmriti too in English. The German scholar Max Muller presented the historical information about India. The British also tried to know the ancient languages of India. The British scholar James Primps dispersed the inscription of Ashoka in 1827 AD. Vincent Arthur Smith wrote Early History of India, which is the first authentic book about ancient India. Moreover, this book has written from the point of view of the British, wherein the Britishers have been praised. He has considered the British rule more useful than the ancient and the medieval Indian rule. The British wrote Indian history from their own viewpoint, whereas the Indian nationalists undertook the task of writing history from the nationalistic point of view. They tried to present the greatness of Indian culture to the world. Dr. R.J. Bhandarkar and V.K. Rajwade are the two such important nationalist historians. So, over here, you all will be familiar that the Britishers started their rule from the 18th century. They were very much interested in the history of India. So, they have translated those books, ancient Indian books, into English. Moreover, to that, in the year 1827, the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal was established. They have translated many books, and among them, Manusmriti is also one of them. Moreover, to that, Britishers also tried to learn and find out that which languages in India were spoken in ancient time. But in the books, they usually used to praise about the British people and content, that if they were not there, then this development would not have taken place. But the Britishers always used to write history from their own point of view. But the Indian nationalists also took this task of writing the actual history from the nationalistic point of view. And they have presented the greatness of Indian culture. There was a drastic change in the writing of Indian history after independence. Gradually, the writing of history developed from political history to social, economic, and cultural history. The most important authors in this field are A. L. Basham and The Wonder That Was India, and D. D. Kosambi, The Introduction to Study of Indian History. So, after independence, the history took a, we can say, a U-turn, because there were plenty of things which were to be noticed over here, and there were many important authors who have contributed very well in the field of history. The content of Indian history. The content of Indian history is such that it could bring awareness among students regarding thorough knowledge of past and imbibe one's own nation's unique elements of ancient society, religion, state, and culture. The content of history is chronological information of India, right from the Stone Age to the 20th century's India, and the related cause effect relations. The valuable creation of the historian is to show not only the big events but how small events play a vital role in changing the history. Art, architecture, religion, varna, caste, political system, economy, trade, commerce, thought conduct, and the ideologies related to them have been the content of history. With this intention, we shall try to study the history of ancient India. The historians distribute the sources of knowing history in two parts: unwritten sources and written sources. So, now we will start with the content of Indian history. Over here, in earlier times, people used to write only about few things, but on a later stage they have started writing about the art, architecture, religion, varna, and plenty of things, how it changed from 20th century, the ideologies, trade and commerce. So with this, we will divide our history in two parts. If you want to know it very well, we will divide it into two sections, that is unwritten sources and written sources. The historians have recognized the archaeological inputs as an unwritten sources. The ancient tools, metals, clay vessels, coins, skeletons, human classical sources are known as unwritten sources. No written material are available in this type of sources, but the historians scientifically create history with the help of buried cities, villages, and above mentioned unwritten tools. The major part of the Indian history is prepared from these unwritten sources. So, over here, we all have seen that for the unwritten sources, the major history resources were in unwritten form. That is, we can find the ancient tools, metals, clay vessels, coins, skeletons, human classical resources are majorly found. And with, we can say, with the buried cities, villages, all the above things we have got. So the major part of Indian history is in a form of unwritten sources. Such physical remains of the ancient India are studied with the help of archaeology. The archaeologists search for such ancient places and excavate them. On the basis of remains found, they scientifically assume the time of the place of the life of the human beings of the past. The archaeologists have found out many such cultural matters in India. It describes a long history starting from a relic of human being of 14 lakh year old to the period of Harappa civilization, such as Old Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, New Stone Age, Copper Age, Copper Brass Age, and Iron Age. So over here, when they have excavated with the help of archaeology, when they have found out these excavation sites of villages and areas and places, they have come to know that how people used to live in the past. Moreover to that, we can have that before 14 lakh years, the Harappan civilization was started, and such it was been divided into Old Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, New Stone Age, Copper Stone Age, Copper Brass Age, and Iron Age. To decide the time of excavated remains, they use a certain scientific methods. The most important methods among them is radiocarbon 14, that is C14. According to this method, all the living beings contain C14. After the death of living beings, C14 starts getting assimilated in the atmosphere. The age of the living being is decided on studying the extent of assimilation of the C14 of the living beings in the atmosphere. So, if they want to know that from which exact time duration this particular village or area or excavated site belongs to, then it could be judged or taken into consideration by radiocarbon method, because C14 gets assimilated in the atmosphere after the death. From the remains of plant, the age is determined by using the pollen analysis method. The time period of metals found from the rocks and mines can be determined by the study of geology. The written sources. Written sources are of four types: religious literature, non religious literature, coins and inscriptions, travel accounter of the foreign travelers. So, let us start with the first one, the religious literature. The Indian culture is largely related to religion. Among the religious literature of India, Rig Veda is considered the oldest. Its time period is assumed as 1500 BC to 1000 BC. It is the most ancient Veda, which contains 1028 suktas and 10 mandals, that is chapters. Rig Veda provides the religious, social, political, and cultural information of the Aryans. The India of the time of Rig Veda is also known as Vedic period. So, dear students, this you all have studied in your 10th standard social chapter part 1, that Aryans were the first to come and settle down in India. It was been said or predicted like that. It has been said that the Dravidians were the first one to come and settle down in India, but we can say that the Aryans were more systematic in a format. They followed plenty of things, and because of this thing, major information of Aryans we can get from Rig Veda. All the religious, social, political, cultural informations, and during the time of Rig Veda, it was also known as Vedic period. Besides Rig Veda, 3 other Vedas were written. Thus, there are 4 Vedas. Other Vedas are Yajurva Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. These 3 Vedas were written later than the time of the period of Rig Veda. All the 3 Vedas includes mantras, prayers, religious performances, and worldly affairs. The post-Vedic literature includes Brahmanakas, Aryankas, epics, Upanishads, Puranas, and also the religious scriptures of Jain and Buddhist religion. Along with it, the Dharma Sutra too are included. Among the epic, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are also very important. Puranas are also full of historical matter. However, the period of the formation of the Purans is not evident. Bhagavad Puran, Matsya Purana, Vishnu Purana, Garud Purana are considered important. Upanishads are more than 100 and they are called Vedantas. They reveal the important spiritual progress and then the India. They also include a great philosophical discussion of soul and the supreme soul. Katha, Kena, Mandukya and Manduk Upanishada are the important from the historical point of view. So it has always been said that the history tells us not only about the Vedic period, but it also tells us about the post-Vedic period, which includes the epics, Upanishad, Brahmanakas, Puranas. It also gives us information about the Jain and Buddhist religion. It tells us about the Puranas and the historical matters which took place during that time. In the Puranas, we have Bhagavad Puran, Matsya Puran, Vishnu Puran, and Garud Puran. We have plenty of Upanishads and we call them Vedantas. They are also very spiritual. Moreover to that, we have other Upanishads which are very important from the viewpoint of history. The post-Vedic period is considered up to 600 BC. Apparently, the Dharma Sutra and the Garud Sutras of the Hindu literature were found in the 6th century BC. It also seems that the important literature concerning Buddhist and Jain religion too were written during the same time. Tripitaka is the most important Buddhist religious literature. It includes Sukta Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. The initial life of Buddha is discussed in Sukta Pitaka. Vinay Pitaka includes the rules of the Buddhist monks and nuns. Abhidhamma Pitaka includes the Buddhist philosophy. Besides this, the knowledge of Jatak stories and Buddhist literature holds great importance. The literary volumes of the religious literature of the Jain religion is known as Agam Grantha. Agams includes the philosophical discussions about 24 Jain Tirthankars. Its first compilations was during the Maurya period. The second compilation was during the 6th century BC in the Vallabhi of Gujarat. So over here we can say that many of things have taken place during the 6th century BC, and the post-Vedic period was only considered up to 600 BC. So after 6th BC, the 6th century BC, we can say Dharma Sutras and Garud Sutras were written, and during that time Jain and Buddhist religions, scriptures and religious literature was also written. For Buddhist literature, we have three main important books, that is Sukta Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, and Abhidhanam Pitaka, which tells us about the life of Buddha, the rule of Buddha, and what philosophy they have given. Then, taking into consideration the Jain religion, their literature is known as Agam Grantha, and it tells us and gives us information about 24 Jain Tirthankars. And the first compilation was done during the Maurya period, and the second compilation was done in and around the 6th century in Vallabhi, Gujarat. Non-religious literature. The non-religious literature in India includes mainly Smruti Granthas, Samhitas, plays, and historical books. Manusmriti could be considered as an important non-religious literature. This is very important, students. Please keep this in mind. As the first law book of ancient India, Kautilya Arthashastras is also similar type of important book. It gives information about the political organization, economics, and about the form of the state. Ashtadhyay, written by Panini, is considered as the most ancient and the first important book on Sanskrit grammar. The scholars believe that it must have been formed in the 6th 5th century BC. Dignakai Angutar Nikai and Majjhima Nikaya are the important Buddhist literature. They reveal the history of the establishment of the state and then the social situation. The literary works includes Sanskrit play. The great literature figures Kalidasa's Sanskrit plays are very famous. Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Meghdut, Rutu Samhar, written by him, reveal the social condition of India of the Gupta period. Apart from it, the plays of great poets of Bhasa and Shudrak too could be considered important. Raj Tirangini is the most important historical book of the 12th century. It was written by the state poet of Kashmir, Kalhana. It includes the history of Kashmir according to the hypothesis of the modern history. Such a historical book is not found in ancient India. Harshacharit is one of those many books in which there is historical epic. It was written by Ban Bhatt, the court poet of the Emperor Harsh. The non-religious literature, we can say that over here we may find the works related to the art, culture, and plays, how grammar formations were made. Like we have Kautilya's Arthashastra, which is very important book which tells us about the laws of ancient India. Moreover to that, we have Ashtadhyay written by Panini, which is also considered very important book on grammar, Sanskrit grammar. Moreover to that, we have many Sanskrit plays also included, written by Kalidas, and these plays were written in Sanskrit, which are very much famous. We have Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Meghdutam, and Rutu Samhar. We have other poets like Bhasa and Shudrak, who were also very important. It has been stated that in 12th century, Raj Tirangini was also very important book which told us about the history of Kashmir, but the book was not eventually found in the ancient India. Harshacharit is also one of those important book which was written by Ban Bhatt. In the South India, Sangam literature could be considered as the best religious literature. They were composed in Tamil language. Many poets have contributed to it. 3 such sangams, which are the assemblies, took place in Madurai. The literature that was written in that is called Sangam literature. It includes the appreciations of the kings and the brave men. These poems used to be sung in court. This literature includes epic like Shila Literature is useful in understanding the political, social, economical, and cultural aspect of southern India of the period 300 BC to 300 AD. Sangam literature is signposted by finding the archaeologists and foreign travelers. So, for the southern India, we can find Sangam literature, and many poets and writers, brave men's stories and poems were written by them. Coins and inscriptions. Coins are great sources of studying history. The study of coin is called uh, numismatics. The scientific tool studies the time, script, and metal of the coins and infers historical facts. The symbols and sign on the coins reveals history. The oldest coins in India are the coins of Panchmark. They were made up of silver and copper. This period was 5th century BC. You can see over here the images given of Panchmark, the five symbols. These coins were of different shapes. Inscriptions made on pillars and stones are useful as coins in studying the history. The oldest inscription in India are that of Ashoka's time. The ecologies written by the poet about the king are called the Appreciation. The inscription of Ashoka were written in Prakrit language of Brahmi script. The script of the inscription found in the North India is of the Kherosti. The inscription found in Afghanistan are Armanic, and that is a Greek script. So over here, if we want to know more about what happened about the coins and inscriptions, then we can find out with the help of history. It tells us the inscriptions which are made up on pillars and stones are also useful in studying. And in India, the oldest inscription was from the time of Ashoka's time. And plenty of things was written in the inscriptions. Usually they were the appreciations of the king, and that inscription of Ashok was written in Prakrit language, which is one of Brahmi script. Moreover to that, there were, we can say, Afghanistan's Armenic Greek inscriptions which were also found in the northern India. The honor of deciphering the inscription of Ashoka goes to James Primps. He deciphered the Brahmi script from the inscription of 1827 AD. Brahmi script was written from left to right. The Kherosti script was written from right to left. The inscriptions of Ashoka was more than 25. We derive administrative, political, religious policies from them. The kings of Satvahan had inscribed writing found near Nasik. Individual and government inscriptions are found in the inscriptions of Ashoka. Some of the inscriptions found as eulogies. The most illustrative example of it is the inscription of Prayag of Samudragupta written by the poet Harishana. This inscription is inscribed on the Ashoka pillar. The second example is the appreciation of the King Bhoj of Gwalior. Besides this, the other historically important sources are the inscription of Hathi Gufa of the King Kharwal, a Kalinga inscription of Gautami in Nasik Gufa, the inscription of Devpada of Vijay Sen, the king of Bengal, and Aihole inscription of Chalukya king Pulkesh II. So over here we can see that in olden times there were, we can say, inscriptions written more, and there were more than 25 inscriptions written on Ashoka, which tells us and gives us information about the administration, politics, and religious policies which was used during the Satvahan kings of time, which was found near Nasik. Plenty of other things and inscriptions were also found out from the Ashok pillar, which tells us about the Prayag's Samudragupta, and that was written by the poet Harisana. Then we can get one more example of the King Bhoj of Gwalior, Moreover to that, we have Hathi Gufa of the king Khareval of Kalinga, and many more. Copper plates are also an important source of studying history. Land grant letters were written on the copper plates. Individual inscriptions are seen in temples. The dates on them give information of the time when they were inscribed. They also provide information of language. The inscriptions of Gupta period is found in Sanskrit. Inscriptions found abroad to provide information of the history of India. The inscription found by the Gozakoi in Asia Minor, that is Turkish, was 1400 BC. There is a reference of Vedic gods on it. The inscriptions of Persepolis and Bahistun provides information about the attacks of Iran on India. There is a great similarity between the name of Babylonia's king and the kings of Iran and India on the earthen plates found from the Tal al Amarana of Egypt. Inscriptions, archives provides the time of the king and his kingdom, its boundaries and materials in the kingdom, its social and economical cultural history. So it has also been said that not only inscriptions but the copper plates were also a great source of learning history, because it gives us various information about how the king used to behave, how they used to live, which war they have fought. Everything is given, and we can see the similarities also in them. Like we have found the similarities between the names of Babylonian kings with the kings of Iran and India. So we can say that in earlier time, India was considered to be a great land with amalgamation of different countries, which was considered as one. And then, with the advancement of time, they all got separated into different divisions and their regions and religions, following their own culture and getting a new identity. The next one is monuments and buildings. The development of art of architecture, that is Vastu, is known from the architecture of the residences of temples of kings and people of the time. The Nagar pattern temples in the North India, the Dravid pattern temples of the South India, and the Besar pattern temples in the Deccan are the important documents of architecture. Stupas, chaityas, viharas, temples are spread out in the Southeast Asia and the Central Asia along with India. It indicates the propagation and spread of Indian culture. The great evidence of that is the Borobudur temple of Java, which was built in 9th century BC. You can see we have image over here that temples also played a very important role, and it was being considered as art of architecture. Moreover to that, it was known as the residences and the temples of king and the people of those times. The Nagar pattern temples are famous in North India, Dravid pattern temples are famous in southern India, and Basar patterns are important in Deccan. We can also find stupas, chaityas, viharas, temples which are being spread on the Southeast Asian part of India and the central one. And we can also find out that a great evidence of a beautiful Borobudur temple of Java was built in 9th century BC. Statues. In order to understand history, statues are important sources of information. The sculpture of statues are seen in the larger extent of Kushan's Gupta and the post-Gupta period. The statues of Kushan period have been great impacted by the foreign art. The art of Gandhar and Mathura patterns are the best among the art of statues. The statues found from the Sanchi, Amravati, Barhut and Bodh Gaya exhibits clearly a well-developed art of statues. So we can find the statues in the larger extent of Kushan period and Gupta period and post-Gupta period. We can find the statue which is found in Sanchi, Amravati, Barhut, and Bodh Gaya. Art of painting. The art of painting has been an important source of studying Indian history. Since the time of painting of Stone Age, it is important illustration is the cave paintings of Bhimbedka. Such an art was developed in Gupta period. The world famous painting of Ajanta are the climax of the developments of painting. There have also been such evidences from Ellora and Bagh. So in Stone Age, painting was given more importance and people used to paint in caves with the basic colors which they used to find from nature, like brown, white, green. Few colors were only there. They didn't had fluorescent colors like we used to have nowadays. They didn't had modern art, but whatever they used to observe and synthesize, beautiful paintings were made during those Gupta periods also. And those evidences we can find from the famous paintings of Ajanta, Ellora, and Bagh. And the last topic, that is description of foreign travelers. From ancient India, India has been in contact with foreign countries. Many foreigners have been coming to India. Whatever they have written about India is an important source of studying history. In ancient India, pilgrims had come from Greek, Rome, and China. People were ambassadors. Some were ambassadors, and some had come to study the religion, and some other come for trade and commerce. They have written a lot about India. The history can be written very clearly by referring the local literature and travel account of the foreigners. During the rule of Chandragupta Maurya, the ambassador of Seculus Nicator and the Megastheus are the sorehead in India. They had written an important book called Indica. However, the original book is not available, but the writers after him have mentioned the book often. Indica provides a valuable information about the administration, social system, trade, and commerce of India during the time of Chandragupta Maurya. The Greeks and the Romans have also given information about the headquarters of trade and important ports of 1st and 2nd century BC. They have given a detailed report of trade between India and Rome. The important books among the natural geography of the Ptolemy and Pliny. Besides this, Periplus of the Arthenian Sea book of an unknown author also provides information about Indian ports. The Chinese pilgrims had come to India to love the Buddhist religion. Fehin, Unitarang, and Itsing were the prominent among them. They have given the first hand detailed picture of Buddhist religion, Buddhist pilgrim places, Emperor Harshvardhana, Nalanda University, and then Indian society. So, over here from ancient India, ancient time, many people used to travel India for business purpose, for traveling purpose, and we all know that India was an amalgamation of various types of tribes, caste, religion. So, taking that into consideration, many pilgrims had also come from Greek, Rome, and China because of the cultural diversity which we used to have over here. And they have written a lot about India, which is really very helpful because it lets us know about more of how our India was in that time duration. Moreover to that, there were we can say during the rule of Chandragupta Maurya, there were many ambassadors who had come and settled down in India. They had written an important book also known as Indica. The original text is not found, but plenty of informations which we have got from that book, because other writers have mentioned it, was about the administration, social system, and trade and commerce which prevails in India during the Chandragupta Maurya's period. The Greeks and Romans have also given us the information about the 1st and 2nd century BC and the trade details between India and Rome. The Chinese pilgrims were also attracted towards India because for the love of the Buddhist religion, and they have given a beautiful description about the Buddhist religion, Buddhist pilgrimage places, and Emperor Harshvardhana about Nalanda University and how the Indian society was. So, dear students, this is all about the reading and explanation of Unit 1, that is the sources of studying history of ancient India. All these, we can say, the first chapter is, we can say, a short summary of what we are going to study in detail. Okay, so this is all for today. I hope that every one of you have understood it. If you still find any doubt or queries, you can comment down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. And dear students, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.